up.
The poster child of Warframe, Excalibur. He is a long standing in Warframe, from being everyone's first frame to a fan favorite. He has had all of the spotlight. If you've been playing Warframe for a while, you may have remembered when DE announced there would be a new frame, a version of Excalibur that seemed to look like a Prime one. We then found out it was called Excalibur Umbra, and he had a background like no other frame in the game. In this video, I'll be talking about Umbra, his stories, his abilities, and some opinions and fun facts about him. Before I get into this video, let me put out a disclaimer that this video contains spoilers for the quest The Sacrifice, as well as hints to other quests. So if you haven't played the quest yet, and you care about the story, you'll have to skip to the timestamp and where I talk about his abilities and some other facts and opinions about him. Now the lore on Excalibur Umbra. Many of you may know the lore if you played the quest The Sacrifice, as I've mentioned. This quest is different than all of the rest, and is one of the best in my opinion. Umbra was never a frame to begin with. Umbra was an Orc and Dax soldier who was punished by Ballas for interfering with his master plan, his betrayal.
You thought you could outplay me? I've had lifetimes to plan my defection. You spied on me, intercepted my communications. But I saw your move long before you took it. And so, we come to the consequences. Yet you couldn't understand why I'd give my secrets to our enemy. How could I betray my own kind?
As you can see in the quest, you're a father, and you're lying in bed while Ballas talks to you in your head. You can see your son Isaiah standing beside the bed, worried about your sickness. Ballas exposed you, the Orc and Dax soldier, to infestation to become an anti-sentient weapon, a warframe, which is what won them the war. However, it apparently was not the infestation in quotes there, that allowed you to transform into a frame. It was instead a miracle, again in quotes, which needed a sacrifice. That sacrifice being your son, Umbra's son, Isaiah. This memory is permanently a part of Umbra, which is why he's so angry and vicious in the quest.
Your transformation has begun, reshaping you into a sacred surrogate of the unholy Tenno. A warframe with but a single, burning memory. It is a miracle.
All of this because you, the Dax soldier, found out Ballas' secret and spied on him. So obviously he's unique, no question about it, but he is the only frame that can act on his own. Because of his torture and torment, he retains most of his sentience, which means he's able of acting on his own, separate from the Tenno. This is something we see in the quest, as our Tenno is trying to gain control of Umbra, to be a part of him, which Umbra rejects at first and starts to go rogue. Now, as mentioned, he's stuck with these awful last memories before turning into a frame in Excalibur. But although not directly related, the Tenno is able to find recordings that show the sentience betrayal, the creation of frames, and the Tenno. As I mentioned, we go on the hunt for Umbra, trying to calm him down so we can control him. A weird concept when you think about it. You want a live being to calm down a human, or at least an Orc and Dax soldier, which does seem pretty human, to control them, to be in them. Take that how you will, but moving on, he doesn't start out as Umbra. We see that in a courtyard on Earth, he's battling Ballas in some sentience. He is then blown up by Nata after he loses control from Ballas being inside his head, slightly controlling him. This is how we're introduced to Umbra, a time where everyone was shitting their pants because of how awesome this was. At least I was shitting myself. The operator then goes on a hunt for Umbra's remains, which then leads us to Lua, discovering the Vitruvians, which allow us to rebuild Umbra from the data we collected from the Vitruvians. Now this is not where Umbra gets controlled, as he then, as mentioned before, goes rogue and flees. But this is where we see his memories, so we get on his good side, saying we will defeat Ballas together.
We'll face this together.
Now, like I said, eventually we get on Umbra's good side. We gain his trust and are able to control him. We then face Ballas, and he of course tries to control Umbra, but is not aware of our power in Umbra. He then gets overpowered, allowing Umbra to wound him. Spoiler, he gets stabbed by the coolest sword in the game that I will not try to pronounce. That is the end of his backstory. If you're just getting to this part of the video, this means that you didn't want any spoilers. Before I get to the abilities, I would like to tell you, do the main story quests. They are amazing and worthwhile, especially the earlier ones that heavily involve the Tenno. The Sacrifice is my favorite quest by far, and I recommend doing it when you can. Umbra's abilities, obviously very similar to Excalibur as he is in Excalibur. but not exactly like Excalibur. His passive is unique, as it allows Umbra to fight by your side while you're in operator form. You also attack 10% faster and deal 10% more damage with a sword. His first ability, which I swear used to be called Radial Slash, is called Slash Dash. This is a slash of your Exalted Blade on enemies that can be chained. Slash one enemy or 5 in one go. This deals slash damage and increases your melee combo counter. You can also just use this as mobility, as you can dash where you aim if there are no enemies. His second ability, which is my favorite and unique to Umbra, is Radial Howl. This is similar to Excalibur's second, as it still blinds and stuns enemies. This also sheds any built-up resistance on sentients. Enemies aren't blinded for the whole duration, but they are stunned for the entirety. There isn't much more about this ability that it's used for at least, but it does look really cool. His third, Radial Javelin, is a damage dealer. This can deal puncture, impact, and slash, where slash is guaranteed. This is kind of useful. I don't find myself using it often as a real damage dealer because that's where his last ability comes in. I will say this does have a pretty good augment mod, which can increase melee damage for each enemy hit by his ability. Now finally, his last ability, his Exalted Blade. Now this isn't really different from regular Excalibur. Fun fact, it's just a Skana, but you know, cool and exalted. You can use this as a regular melee or you can use it at a distance. You shoot discs of slash at enemies, which can be pretty fun to do. If you do a sleight attack, then you will stick your sword in the air and do a radial attack that blinds and stuns enemies. Also, pretty much every attack does more damage than a normal weapon. Well, some normal weapons can deal a ton of damage, but then again, they aren't really normal. I should also add that the discs of energy waves can go through anything, so that's pretty neat. The damage for this can be affected by ability strength, but it also can be modded by itself. Not only can you have a ton of strength for a ton of damage, but you can also mod the blade the way you want. This ability also has a really good augment in my opinion called Chromatic Blade. This mod makes the blade's damage type change depending on Excalibur's emissive color. So similar to Chroma, or what used to be Chroma. This mod also increases status chance by 300%, which is huge. Again, this ability is what he's known for, and it doesn't change much on Umbra. When you complete the quest, or when you get Umbra technically, you will also get 3 warframe mods, along with other items, but this video is about Umbra. So technically you get 5 mods, but again, we're just talking about the frame. These mods already have polarities, Umbra polarities, and the mods are a version of Intensify, Vitality, and Steel Fiber, which is ability strength, health, and armor. All of these mods come with Tau resistance, which is the status that sentients deal, and Caliban, but who cares, although I do like Caliban. I love this frame. I may not use him a lot, but he is one of the nicest looking frames and coolest ones in my opinion. Plus the rich history and lore behind this character is one we have with no other frame. I mean, what frame is also an Orc and Dax soldier who is trying to get revenge on one of the most powerful factions and person in the game, who killed his son? It's just such a cool story, and again, the quest is fantastic. If you haven't noticed, all of my thumbnails contain the Sacrifice Quest art. My older thumbnails in the background of my logo contains the Vitruvian art. My newer thumbnails contain the courtyard scene, and this scene is also on the background of all of my videos, where I have a frame standing still to show some character to a faceless voice. Now that is about all I have for this video. If you're still here, post your favorite Umbra style and tag me in it on Instagram. I like seeing fashion frames that people make, and with Umbra being my favorite, I would love to see what you guys come up with. Let me know what you think of Umbra in the comments, and with all that said, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.